Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to episode 61 of the Prosperous Yogini Podcast. This is part 2 of my 4-part series of mini teaching clinics. And that's a good question today. Is Trikonasana, is triangle pose dangerous? This is actually off the back of a teaching clinic from inside my mentorship program. So my 6-month Prosperous Yogini mentorship program, we have 3 live 90-minute calls a month. That is 2 coaching Q&A sessions. And then there is a 90-minute teaching clinic. And in the teaching clinic, it's always guided by those in the program. They ask me a question about an aspect of teaching, and I will pick it up as a teaching clinic. We do like a half an hour lecture style discussion, sharing ideas, sharing experiences, sharing problems. And then I do a class, one, because it's great to do our own practice, and 2, to kind of model what I've just been talking about. And someone the other day in the mentorship program was like, I'd seen someone talking about triangle pose being a dangerous pose. Like, what is dangerous about triangle? I teach triangle all the time. Oh my God, what have I missed? Okay. And I love this question: is triangle pose dangerous? Well, first of all, like, I just want you to know, right? Because there are other poses. I could have picked way more controversial poses, like, is headstand dangerous? Is shoulder stand dangerous? Is handstand a yoga pose? Okay. Should I ever encourage my students to sit in lotus or half lotus? Look, okay, I'm going to say this now. I said this last week, it's going to be a theme. Like, the human body is absolutely amazing. We place so many do's and don'ts in it. We place so many limits on the human body that I want you to know that no movement that the human body has capacity to do, okay, is dangerous. Our capacity for movement, our elastic limit, our current available range of motion, right, is unique to us. So there's definitely going to be movements, shapes, yoga shapes, asanas, whatever you want to call them, that is perfectly safe for somebody to do and really dangerous for another person to do. And we go onto Instagram and scroll through and get really judgmental. Like, you see a yoga teacher, I don't know, doing, let me go really up the controversy here. She's 34 weeks pregnant and she's doing headstand. And it could be really easy for us to go, well, that's dangerous. She shouldn't be doing that at 34 weeks pregnant. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, would I ever invite those in my pregnancy yoga class to do a headstand? No, hell no. Okay. Did I practice headstand when I was 34 weeks? No, I was really fat when I was 34 weeks pregnant, had crippling penis dysfunction. So I was lucky to get off the sofa or get out of bed, right? Have I taught someone who has been 34 weeks pregnant and done headstand? Yes. Okay, I had a lady many years ago now who, when I was having my Ashtanga phase of life, was really established Ashtanga practitioner, got pregnant, and was very much like, I want to keep coming to this Ashtanga class, keep up my regular practice, and obviously adapt. And we just went down the road of, if it felt good to do, then she continued to do it. And the headstand, of course, I supported her. Of course, she did hold it, maybe as long as she would have done if she wasn't pregnant. But the headstand felt so good for her at 44 weeks. She was a very petite lady. Coming up into headstand was relieving the downward pressure off the pelvic floor and on the legs. She was suffering from restless legs, and the headstand was like this one thing that really helps to tone down the restless legs at night. Another story that came back to me this week actually was the lady who I trained with, Linda Morley. She's a really experienced yoga practitioner, and when we were in our training many years ago, 2008 to be precise, she told us all of the story that when she was pregnant and she was due to have her baby, and her baby was breech, so it was feet down, and she was told that she couldn't, unless this changed, and she's in these latter stages of pregnancy. Left to change, it wouldn't be a vaginal delivery. And Linda went home and regularly practiced shoulder stand, regularly hung upside down in shoulder stand and turned her baby. Okay, so all of these things that would be like, oh no, that's dangerous, right? Oh no, that person should not be making that shape. And there's all these young, slim, beautiful women in bikinis making beautiful yoga shapes on Instagram, downgrading yoga. Like, okay, they shouldn't be doing this. I'm like, can we reframe this? Can we look at all human bodies, from those beautiful, slim women making beautiful shapes with their body to me making beautiful shapes in my body, age 44, size 14 to 16, okay? That it doesn't matter that the human body comes in a variety of forms, thank goodness, a variety of ages, thank goodness, a variety of shapes, thank goodness. The only possible problem is that we need to see more people from different ages, different demographics, different body shapes, making beautiful shapes with their body on Instagram. But that's not the beautiful slim lady who's doing a wonderful, beautiful shape in her bikini. That is not her problem. Okay. Can we celebrate the human body in all its shapes, all its forms, and know that nothing is dangerous? Okay. As long as we approach it from really what I was talking about in episode 60, in terms of finding our own unique alignment, finding an expression of our anatomy, because when we move, when we make a shape with our body, when we do an asana, when we do a pose, we are just using our anatomy to express it, to express the creativity of our anatomy. If we are expressing it in a way that completely honors us from a place of balance and sense of space, then honestly, anything, my darling, is possible. So let's go to Trikonasana and why it has such a bad reputation. And really, this actually is going to tie quite neatly into hypermobility, which I touched a little bit on last week. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that I've got pretty hypermobile knees. I can really lock my knee joints out. And this is not anything, this is not, I've not done any research to prove this, but from my observation, many yoga teachers and actually people who may be drawn naturally to yoga fall into that more hypermobility type. Their fascia, their fabric of their body, the tissue of their body is more elastic, more stretchy. Okay. Hence they like going to yoga classes and doing stretches. By the way, human beings, we just take pleasure. Anyway, so Trikonasana for me is one of the hardest poses to do because of my hypermobility. And this is where it becomes dangerous, because let's say like dangerous, it's not life or death, okay? But this is where it becomes tricky to practice if you're hypermobile. And then from a teaching perspective, tricky to teach, because your hypermobile people like me, we have got very used to locking out into our joints. We don't notice we're doing it. It's our habit. It's our place of safety. It feels good because we're so used to being here. Okay. Even if like it's not so good, it's locking out joints, it's locking out the flow of energy in the body, it's putting pressure in the joints, it's not balanced action, there's not space in the joints because it's locked out. We've got so used to this place that it feels good. So you instruct to not lock out into your joints, but you notice they're not listening to you. You're like, well, I told them to do this. Why haven't they listened? But I just haven't noticed. Okay. And you may not have noticed that you do it yourself. So if you're not listening to this in the car, let's come to standing and just take the leg sort of 2 to 3 feet apart. We have a little play with a triangle shape and turn one foot to face the short edges of the mat. So here I can straighten, I've got my left leg forward. I can straighten my left leg and lock it out. If you're watching on YouTube, I body, because please keep listening on Apple and Spotify if this is where you access my podcast. But I do think these 4 series of teaching clinics, we're really interested to watch on YouTube, because you're always going to get a bit of practice of body reading, okay? Because if you watch me lock my leg out, so I'm locking my left leg out, and what happens to my body? Well, my right butt cheek, as my son would say, is jutted out to the back. The right side of my waist is just shortened. So there's a real imbalance between right and left side of my waist. My left thigh bone is actually driving up into the ball and socket joint of the pelvis. So that doesn't feel spacious. Not just that, my whole of my left leg, I can give it a good old shake, and all the flesh is super shaky. There's no muscular energy in my strong left thigh. Okay. And then if I then put my arms out to the side and came down into Trikonasana and be like, oh yeah, good on Instagram. There, all I'm doing is bearing a whole load of weight. I've come out now because it's not comfortable. Now I know. I used to do my Trikonasana like that all the time. All I'm doing there, let's do it over to the right hand side. So I'm now locking my right knee joint out. My pelvis has gone back. So my left hip's gone right up. Left side of my waist is shortened. Right side of my waist is really long. There's no muscular energy in that front leg. To be honest, my back leg's locked out. If I take my arms up, if you think about Trikonasana as a lengthening of the side waist, my left side waist is really short. And then I come into Trikonasana, bringing my right hand to the earth, left hand to the sky. And I can lock out even more. I'm driving this right thigh bone into the ball and socket joint of the pelvis. There's no support here. There's a bit of torsion, bit of twist on the back of my SI joint, take your iliac joint as well. I come out. If you're like, Amy, come out. That does not feel good. That does not feel good. I tell you what, it doesn't feel good, right? But also locking out that knee joint is just driving a whole load of weight through the joints, joint network, hip, knee, ankle, and they're not able to manage that weight, spread that load of that weight, because we haven't got the support of muscular action in the legs. A great example of this, actually, if you are able to do a bit of moving, is come back to pose from last week's Tadasana. Maybe bring your hands to your pelvis. See your feet actually a bit wider than hip distance apart. Oh my goodness, I forgot to talk about whether we should have feet hip distance apart or touching last week. Oh, I missed that one out. Lock out your knees if you can, and now take a few pelvic circles. So if you're watching on YouTube, I definitely feel like that, like one of those weebles wobbles, but they don't fall down. Okay, soften your knees and notice how all of a sudden you think you could possibly enter the world belly dancing competition. So much more expressive, so much more safe, so much more potential for movement. Okay, that's all we're trying to do when we're bringing people into alignment. If I remember, I'll briefly touch on should feet be hip distance or big toe ankle joint touching in Tadasana. God, there was so much in Tadasana. I can't believe I missed that one out. Let's go back to Trikonasana. So the danger is in triangle pose for our hypermobile students lock out. We've got no support in the joints. We are putting disproportionate load onto the SI joint, disproportionate load through an unstable knee joint. Okay. And actually, I can do that. I can do that once, and probably nothing bad is going to happen, right? Okay. But this is where I want you guys to start thinking about injury, not just as a sudden event that can happen, that sudden impact traumatic event. Sometimes injury is a slow burner. We do a little thing every day that is slightly out of balance, a little bit niggly, but we get away with it. We get away with it. We get away with it. Get away with it. And then all of a sudden, 10, 15 years down the line, we've got a hip problem. We've got a knee problem. Okay. And this is why Trikonasana gets really labeled as a dangerous pose, because over the years, if we have got that hypermobile person who's locking out into the joints, who's driving a lot of load through the SI joint and through the knee joint. 10, 15 years down the line, they are having problems with their back, problems with their SI joint, problems with their knee joint. They're 15, 20 years down the line having knee replacement, hip replacement. And we say yoga is dangerous and yoga is a problem. Okay. No, yeah. It is that lack of awareness, feeling space within our body. Okay. Yoga isn't dangerous. No movement is dangerous. Trikonasana isn't dangerous. So, how do I navigate in a group class? You know, majority of my students are hypermobile and they're not listening to me. And how do I navigate this? And this is how I would teach Trikonasana. So we come back to that wide stance, 3 or 4 feet apart, turn one leg out and bend through that right leg. Got my front leg is my right leg. So I've got them bend into the knee. So you could say this is like, oh, base shape of a warrior two. You do have to watch that back leg because people can lock out that back leg. And if I lock out my back leg, my left leg, my thigh bone has come right back now, is jarring into the back of my pelvis. No muscular energy into that leg or into that left glute. So really little micro bend into that left knee. It comes back to buoyancy, sense of space. Engage through the whole of the sole of the back foot. Root through the outer edge of the back foot. That can help. We don't want to give our students too many instructions. And then bring your right elbow to your right knee, left. And then I actually allow Trikonasana to evolve from here. So I might keep the right leg bent and take the left arm to the sky. I might now press into the right leg and allow the right leg to lengthen. But maybe moving back between the two, because sometimes it's quite nice to notice if you're hypermobile, sometimes you have to go to that place of, oh yeah, that is locked out. And I can really feel that now. If I put a micro bend into it, there's a little bit of buoyancy. If I can circle my pelvis, if I've locked out the energy, and then my Trikonasana. There are other things we can do that might look like this. You can cue isometrically hugging the feet together. You can certainly cue, feel the muscles of the leg hugging the bones, feel the muscles of the thigh hugging the bone. I don't separate hamstring and quadriceps. In fact, I actually like to say, feel the back of the thigh bone hug, because that's where the quadriceps are going to get involved. So just changing sides a minute. I tend to very much come from a bent knee place. And if you have a student who is hypermobile and they are just going into that locked out place, then to me, I would just invite a micro bend into the knee, as over time, they learn to find a leg that is lengthened, fully lengthened, not locked out, with the muscles of the leg hugging the bone, lots of engagement through the feet. They can feel this stability, they can feel this support, and then move into their Trikonasana from a place of stability and support. And that comes with time and practice. And you inviting them to notice and pay attention and explore and play with changes. Trikonasana is not bad. Do watch out for hypermobility and locking out in the knee joint. Let me just finish with, let's come to standing, like Tadasana part 2. One of the things I missed from last week is there is also the option in Tadasana whether you stand with your big toe ankle joint touching or your feet hips distance apart. Like, which one should I do? Oh my God, it just goes back to what feels good, right? But also I want you to know, like, have you ever questioned where some of this yoga movement, yoga practices come from? Have you looked into yoga history and yoga lineage that some of us get very passionate about? Okay, well, it's predominantly male-led, by the way, I'll just let you know. And styles of yoga that advocate big toe ankle joint touching, such as Iyengar or Ashtanga yoga, were created by a man and predominantly practiced by men, particularly if we take the example of Ashtanga yoga, created by a man, predominantly practiced by young Indian boys, men. So does it fit my female form to stand with my big toe ankle joint touching? Maybe yes, maybe no. I literally cannot answer that. That's a question for you to answer. Does it feel more spacious? Am I able to feel more balanced through the system if I have my feet hip distance apart? With my pregnant women, I find actually they just feel even a slightly wider base with the legs slightly wider than hip. Okay. And don't even get me started on should the feet be parallel. I mean, what happens if it does feel a bit more spacious for the knee joint to turn a toe out? Going back to Trikonasana, no, what happens if I am able to find more length, more space in my sideways with my knee bend? This is how we can help as yoga teachers, the practice of yoga to evolve in, and we're talking about the physical practice, the movement practice, evolve into a place where, I'm not saying 10 years down the line, people are going to come to a yoga class and not be guided by a teacher and told what to do. But I really like this idea that maybe in 10 years' time, or this is happening already, people will come to yoga and the shapes that you invited to make, they're like the basic template, but we are invited to explore and help within that basic template rather than having someone else's anatomy on us. It's really interesting. I don't want to get too deep into this because these are meant to be mini teaching clinics, but when we look at the alignments, when we look at the, what we should do, all the shoulds within a pose, right? They are great guidelines. I'm not saying let's burn all our asana books, but we need to look at them as guides and then think about in our own practice, because that was going to filter into our teaching, how that guide might apply to us and how we may then support our students in guiding themselves within the shape. None of this is easy, which is why you need to do my mentorship program, because I will help you with all of this, the teaching clinics, explore all of this, plus you get your ongoing access to my yoga library, which is 100 plus classes. You get to practice with me at your own time, own pace. It's still all my lessons and my plans. It's out there to share, okay? And I'm not saying the way I do it is the right way, because there isn't one right way. I really do empower everyone I train, everyone I work with, to find their way of teaching, really honor that. And then, funny enough, you attract, because you're really honoring how you want to bring yoga to the world, your experience in the practice of the world. You attract people who want to experience a practice like that. So the doors open October the 12th. I'll say this a lot the next good many weeks. October the 12th, the doors open. Get your name on the wait list. It's really important this time around that you're on the wait list, because things have shifted slightly. Things are growing. Things are getting to the point where I do have to limit the amount of people that I can offer that one-to-one support to. Plus, I really want to help as many yoga teachers as possible. So there's two options that you can come in. Option one is currently $597 for October. That will include ongoing, so past the 6 months, ongoing access to the 6 modules of Business of Teaching Yoga, my 100 class yoga library, leveraged how to set up. Bottom line is, we all benefit from a bit of passive income, and the art of teaching yoga or anything. Just being confident in your teaching helps you feel confident in your business. Being confident in your business helps you feel confident in your teaching. The two are completely interlinked. Or self-paced study courses, and actually you get ongoing access to that past your 6 months. 597 option one also includes 6 months of community support. It's not on Facebook, it's on an amazing community platform called Circle, and you can go onto that community anytime and ask for my support, my help, my feedback on your teaching or running your business. Of course, other community members, other teachers in the program lend their support as well, which is lovely. We have 3 live calls a month, 2 coaching calls where you can ask questions in advance, or hot seat, ask them live, and a teaching clinic. All right. And that's for 6 months. And it is only just $597. And into all of this, it is a Yoga Lights Professionals accredited further training course, 100 hours. So you can add a little 100-hour ticket to your hours if you are collecting them. Okay. And then option 2 is to really work with me one-to-one. All of that goodness in option one, but you also get, we start the program with a one-to-one 60-minute call, and I get you to fill out a questionnaire. This is my pathway to profit, which, by the way, is an individual offer. If you're like, I would love to work with you, Amy, but that 6 months is too much commitment for me, you can do my pathway to profit. You can get me having eyes on your business and give you some ideas as an individual offer. I'll put the link to both of this in the show notes. But we do a 60-minute call. I get you to fill out a questionnaire, and from that two sources of information, I will look at everything you do, everything you're currently doing, everything you've told me you'd like to do, and I create your own unique pathway to profit, which is based on what you've told me, based on what I can see. And then there's also this thing I can do. I can't explain it. I'm just molding you in it now. I'm just claiming it. I'm just owning it. This gift I have to be able to look at what you do and see what lights you up and guide you to that place of what it is you came here to do, your sole purpose, for want of a better word. So I create your pathway to profit, and we use that to guide the 6 months and beyond. And you have one-to-one ongoing support via WhatsApp or Voxer and email for the whole of that 6 months together. That is currently in October only $997. And I do really get very invested in those I work with one-to-one. So technically it's just one Zoom call, but like the other day I hopped on a call with someone who was building an online course business. She got a bit stuck on main light and automation. We had a go at trying to figure it out on WhatsApp, and I was like, you know what, let's just hop on a quick Zoom call and go through this together. You know, that happens. You know, I'm very, very invested in everyone who I work with. Both options are brilliant. But if you're like, oh, option 2 sounds what I need, Amy, and you're right, 997, that level of support, that level of mentoring, whoa, I will not find that anywhere else. You really will not, my darling. Okay? And you need to get on the wait list, because that is very limited the amount of people I can now take on. And I'm going to be offering it out to the wait list, first of all, come October. All right, my darling. Part 2 of our 4-part teaching clinic. I will see you next week.